Prosecutors and investigators really believe there is no true justice.
And today, we're hearing from another of Harmony's family members.
Now to Concord, New Hampshire tonight, a big development announced in the Harmony Montgomery case, now classified as a homicide.
It's not about a feather in the cap to say that we found her. It's about this is what she deserves. That's what you deserve. That's what I deserve. Everybody has that level of dignity that they should be afforded. And Harmony...
Thank you, sir. All right, good afternoon.
Harmony Montgomery was 5 years old when she went to live with her father, a sweet little girl, partially blind in one eye, who lit up every room she entered. The people who raised her in foster care adored her. Her mother, Crystal, loved her. There was no reason to think this was anything but a new chapter.
It's about this is what she deserves.
Then Crystal stopped hearing from her daughter. 1 month passed, then 6, then a year. Every message she sent went unanswered. Every call went ignored. Adam had a different story every time someone asked it. She's with her mom, she is around, she's fine, but no one had actually seen Harmony. By the time police finally tracked Adam down on New Year's Eve of 2021, his daughter had been missing for 2 full years. He looked the officers in the eye and told them he had no idea where she was either. So here's the question that refused to go away. How does a child simply vanish while every system that existed to protect her kept looking the other way? Hi, welcome to Last Detective. Here we investigate cases where danger never looked like danger. If you value human voiceover, detailed research, and the details that truly matter, make sure you subscribe. Well, alrighty, I won't waste your time with a long intro. Let's get into the case. New Year's Eve 2021, while people around the world were celebrating, counting down to midnight and toasting to a fresh start, the mood in Manchester was anything but festive. And inside the police station in this working-class city deep in New England, detectives were questioning a 31-year-old man named Adam. Questions they were asking him were not routine. They were deeply troubling because no one, not a single person, had laid eyes on his daughter in 2 full years. And Adam was not giving them anything. No answers, no leads, and no cooperation. That same evening, Adam was being served with a custody notice, a formal legal document ordering him to surrender custody of his 5-year-old daughter to the authorities. That is how serious things had become. That is how worried the people around this case were. The court itself was stepping in to take child away from her own father. But here's the thing. Adam had a horrifying secret, and he was now being forced for the very first time to confront the web of lies he had been spinning for 2 long years. 2 years since anyone had seen his daughter. Around this same period, a number of disturbing reports had been made about the home where Harmony was living with her father. Adam had what you might call a colorful history, but none of those colors were good ones. Child Protective Services had been called to the Montgomery home repeatedly, not just a few times, a lot. Crystal was desperate, but she was not even certain where her daughter was living. Adam blocked Crystal on every platform, never responded to messages, and kept offering different, shifting answers whenever anyone asked about their daughter's whereabouts. She's somewhere in the Manchester area. No, wait, she's around somewhere else. She will turn up, trust me. It was this consistent pattern of evasion that finally caught the serious attention of the New Hampshire Department of Children, Youth and Families, known as DCYF. They already had a history with Adam Montgomery, having responded to complaints at his home on previous occasions. And when friends of Crystal's also began reaching out, urging the department to investigate, that is when the agency truly began pushing harder to locate Harmony. Now, Crystal would later say she called the DCYF dozens of times trying to get anyone to find her daughter. The DCYF, for their part, said they had no record of those calls. Crystal had a very different word for that explanation. Regardless of who held the trust about those phone calls, the facts on the ground painted a clear and troubling picture. The DCYF followed their standard protocol. They checked the state systems, what school was Harmony enrolled in. They contacted the Department of Education. Harmony was not registered anywhere. They then tried to locate the address listed in their own files for Adam and Harmony. When they showed up, the place was empty. Adam had moved without telling anyone, without notifying the school system, without updating the state without leaving so much as a forwarding address. It was in November of 2021 that the DCYF formally alerted the Manchester Police Department that something was seriously wrong. They couldn't find Harmony, they couldn't find Adam. The search expanded to Maine and Massachusetts. Then at the end of December 2021, authorities issued a BOLO alert, a be on the lookout alert that went out across the region. And it worked. Officers located a blue Pontiac with the main plates. They knew exactly what car it was. Adam Montgomery's. He was in the vehicle with his new girlfriend, a woman named Kelsey. Officers approached and ordered Adam out of the car. They asked him to keep his hand visible. They patted him down and confirmed he was not carrying anything. Detectives told him they had been trying to reach him for months. And then they asked the question that had been burning through everyone's mind. Where is your daughter? Adam Montgomery looked at the officers and told them with a remarkable degree of nerve that he didn't know where his daughter was either, that he couldn't say. That, as far as he was concerned, her whereabouts were as much a mystery to him as they were to anyone else.
You got a couple detectives that are coming down to talk to you.
Okay. For what?
What's that?
For what?
Just like people are wondering where Harmony is.
Yeah, I got nothing to say.
Right. So hey man, the only thing we're trying to figure out is where Harmony is. Okay.
Okay.
Where's your daughter so we can check on her and make sure that she's okay?
All right, right now I have nothing to say to you guys.
But that's not what I'm just asking where
Okay,
she is.
I have nothing to say.
Why are you so concerned that I want to check on your daughter?
I have nothing else to say, Bob.
I'm not trying to arrest you, man. I'm just trying to make sure your kid's okay.
Okay, I have nothing else to say.
Can you assure me that your daughter's okay?
Yeah.
Do you know where she is?
Yeah.
Okay. Is she with family?
That very same day, the Ninth Circuit Family Division issued a direct order. Adam Montgomery was to release Harmony into the custody of the DCYF immediately. He was required by law to produce his daughter and hand her over to the state. Adam refused, outright, without hesitation. He simply refused. And at that point, the detectives who had been working this case arrived at the conclusion they had likely been dreading for some time. They were now fully convinced that Harmony Montgomery had not survived. So who were all of these people and what has set this tragedy in motion? Harmony Montgomery was born on June 7, 2014. Her father, Adam Montgomery, was 25 years old at the time of her birth. Her mother, Crystal Sorey, was 24. Harmony had special needs from a very young age. She was in fact misdiagnosed on a couple of occasions as an infant, and her mother was at one point told that Harmony had only months to live, which turned out to be untrue. However, Harmony was partially blind in her left eye. She came into the world already carrying challenges that most children never face, and she deserved every protection a caring parent could offer. Her father Adam had no such instincts to draw on. At the time Harmony was born, Adam was already incarcerated. He was serving time as a result of a serious incident in Haverhill, Massachusetts, a robbery that went badly wrong. The target of that robbery involved illegal substances. In 2006, when he was just 16 years old and living in Bedford, Massachusetts, he was charged with possessing a prohibited item on school grounds. The following year brought charges for burglary and threatening behavior. 2 months after that, he was charged with criminally threatening a former girlfriend. The year after that, he was charged in connection with a serious confrontation as well as robbery. He was a drug dealer. He robbed people. He threatened and confronted people. He stalked former partners. He stole. He cycled in and out of jail, accumulating criminal charges the way most people collect regrets, never learning, never stopping. And at the moment his daughter entered the world, he was sitting in a prison cell as a result of a serious criminal incident involving a man he had attempted to rob, an event that had serious consequences for the victim. Harmony's mother, Crystal Sorey, was not without her own serious struggles. She had a history of substance use that worsened following Harmony's birth. The Haverhill office of the DCYF began making regular visits to Crystal's home. Eventually, baby Harmony was removed from Crystal's custody entirely, placed with the foster family. Harmony was described by everyone who knew her as deeply social, a bright and outgoing little girl who seemed to light up every room she entered. She was thriving in foster care, living with a warm and devoted family that poured love and stability into her life. For a child who had known so little consistency, those were precious months. Unfortunately, they didn't last. Crystal, her biological mother, regained custody after a few months once she appeared to have brought her substance issues under control. But this reprieve was short-lived. Harmony was returned to her foster family for 2 years, then sent back to Crystal for 10 months, then placed once again with the foster family. Harmony had no stable foundation. She had no certainty about where she would be sleeping next month or who would be raising her the following year. Adam Montgomery, Harmony's biological father, who had been serving time in prison as a result of a serious criminal incident involving another man. When Adam was eventually released, he began visitation with his daughter. And then, for a reason that left many people scratching their heads, the New Hampshire DCYF began the process of removing Harmony from her foster family entirely. The agency decided it was time for Harmony to go live with one of her biological parents. Adam said yes. Harmony was around 4 years old at the time. Adam has spent, by rough estimate, approximately 40 hours with his daughter across her entire life. He had never shown any strong desire to be a meaningful presence in her world. Yet here he was, stepping forward and saying, "Yeah, I'll take her. I'm living in Manchester. She can come live with me." In February 2019, a custody hearing was held. Both Adam and Crystal were scheduled to attend. Both, at least initially, expressed that they want Harmony. Crystal, however, didn't make it to that hearing. The reason was genuinely strange. The exact same time as Harmony's custody hearing, Crystal had a separate hearing scheduled regarding another one of her children. The two proceedings were held simultaneously, and she couldn't be in two places at once. So she missed the hearing for Harmony entirely. With Crystal absent, Adam stood before the judge. The judge reviewed the case and, despite Adam's criminal history, declared him fit to be a parent and granted him custody. Crystal was stunned. The foster family, who had raised Harmony for the vast majority of her young life, was devastated. And to make things worse, this decision meant Harmony would be taken across state lines, leaving Haverhill, Massachusetts behind, and moving to Manchester in New Hampshire. Some people at the time believed Adam was turning his life around. He had recently married a woman named Kayla, and the two of them had two very young boys together. One of whom was just a couple of weeks old at the time of the hearing. Adam showed up to court with his wife and his young children, presenting the image of a young family trying to make things work. The court saw that picture and apparently decided to give him a chance. 1 week after the hearing, Harmony was moved into a small house on a leafy street in southwest Manchester. The address was 77 Guilford Street. Living there were Adam, Kayla, their two young boys, Harmony and Kevin Montgomery, Adam's uncle and Harmony's granduncle. It should have been a fresh start. It was anything but. Police would be called to that small house on that quiet residential road approximately 30 times over a 3-year period. 30 times. The neighbors reported constant disturbances, shouting, loud arguments, sound of confrontations, trash piled outside at all hours. The Montgomery household quickly earned a reputation as exactly the kind of family no one wanted living next door. And caught in the middle of all of it were the children. Despite her persistent efforts, Crystal was only able to physically see Harmony twice after she moved in with Adam. She also managed 2 brief FaceTime calls. The last time Crystal saw her daughter in person was just before Easter in April 2019. After that, no matter how many times Crystal messaged or called Adam or Kyla, she was simply ignored. Meanwhile, the situation inside 77 Guilford Street was getting worse. In July 2019, roughly 5 months after Harmony had moved in, Kevin Montgomery moved out of the house. And when he left, he did something important. He contacted the DCYF to report his serious concerns about the child's well-being. Kevin told authorities that he had walked in one day and encountered a situation involving Harmony who was 4 or 5 years old at the time, that immediately told him something was very wrong. That report should have set off every alarm in the system. But when child services visited the Montgomery home in response, they found nothing that concerned them enough to act. They noted they hadn't observed anything of concern about Harmony's appearance during their inspection. They didn't interview Harmony directly. They didn't interview Adam. When they spoke with Kayla, she dismissed Kevin's account entirely. She told investigators that Kevin had been removed from the household for failing to contribute to expenses, and that his report was nothing more than a bitter act of retaliation from someone with bad blood. Child Services accepted the explanation and moved on. A few months later, Child Services returned for another check-in. This time, something about Harmony's appearance prompted a question. Adam had an explanation ready. He told them the children had been playing with foam toy sticks, pretending to have lightsaber battles, and that Harmony had simply gotten a few bumps from the game. When investigators spoke with Harmony directly, she confirmed her father's version of events, and so another visit ended without consequences. Around September 2019, something else happened that would only come to light much later. Adam took a number of items he had absolutely no legal right to possess from another couple in the city of Manchester. Adam was a convicted felon with multiple prior felonies on his record. Under federal law, he was strictly prohibited from possessing such items in any capacity whatsoever. What he did was not only a serious crime in its own right, but a revealing sign of how little regard he had for the rules that were supposed to keep the people around him safe. That detail would resurface again in a much darker context further down the road. In October 2019, Child Services conducted what would be their final recorded visit to the house on Guilford Street. Their report was positive. They noted that Harmony and her 2 younger half-brothers appeared happy and healthy, with no visible concerns to document. After that visit, Harmony was never seen again. Over the following weeks, the Montgomery family's circumstances deteriorated rapidly. By late November and into December 2019, they were evicted from the house on Guilford Street. Their car was involved in a minor collision. Kayla was fired from her job at the Dunkin' Donuts where she had been working. With no home and no steady income, the family began living out of their car. A family of 5, including 3 young children. And as if that were not enough, both Adam and Kayla began using a controlled substance during this period. The situation had collapsed entirely. In early January 2020, the family moved in with Kayla's mother and then transitioned into a families in transition shelter. That was when Child Services paid their next visit. When workers knocked on the door in January 2020 and asked how things were going, they were told Harmony was not here. She was simply not there. Caseworkers had concerns even before that visit. Over the course of all their prior check-ins, they had never found definitive evidence of wrongdoing inside the home. Adam Toh now had a very convenient explanation. She had gone back to her mom back in Massachusetts. Crystal had been doing everything she could think of to reach her daughter. She would message Adam constantly. When he blocked her on Facebook, she created new Facebook profiles and tried again. She worked around him when she could, reaching out to Kayla directly, hoping that Adam's wife might be more willing to pass along even the smallest update about where Harmony was and whether she was safe. But nothing ever came back. Child Services did eventually call Crystal. They left her a voicemail asking her to confirm that Harmony was living with her. For one reason or another, Crystal never returned that call, and Harmony was not living with her. She never had been. So the 2 stories sat there side by side, completely incompatible. Crystal was telling anyone who would listen that she believed Harmony was with Adam. Adam was telling people that Harmony was with Crystal, and all the while, a little girl was nowhere to be found. Then, in late 2021, the DCYF finally began to properly investigate. What they found immediately raised serious alarm. Harmony was not enrolled in school. She was not living at the registered address on Guilford Street anymore. That house was completely empty, and nobody could find Adam Montgomery anywhere. That was when the police got involved. They finally tracked Adam down on New Year's Eve of 2021. At first, he tried to act completely unbothered. He He said he knew exactly where Harmony was and that she was absolutely fine. No need to worry. Everything was under control.
So you didn't do anything wrong. If you're telling me that she's in your custody, there's paperwork that says she's supposed to be in your custody, right? She's not supposed to be in mom's custody, right?
Your mom.
No. Because I talked to her. She's not accusing you of doing anything wrong, but she's worried about her daughter. So how you guys work that out in court is up to you guys. But like I said, you have custody of her. You didn't do anything wrong because you have custody of her. So I just need to know that she's okay. If she's okay, I can say, hey, DCYF, she's fine. Like, we know where she is. Check on her. Cool. Like, that's the end of it. And I don't have to bother you anymore. You and your girl can go on your way as long as I know where she is and she's safe. That's all I really care about. Harmony, I don't know where she is. Mom's concerned. DCYF is concerned. If you can get DCYF your back, wouldn't you want to do that? Like, do you want DCYF trying to track you down?
I mean, I'll deal with DCYF. Man, like,
But they're going to ask you the same thing. Do you want to keep dealing with them?
whatever.
So she's alive.
What?
Your daughter's alive?
Yeah,
You're sure?
I'm positive.
You're like, swear on your life.
I swear on my life.
When's the last time you saw her alive? You know that she's fine. Like, you can assure me that she's alive.
I know she's fine. All right, look, I have nothing else to say, guys. I really don't. I have nothing else to say to you guys.
But you can tell me, like, that. You
All
can
right.
look me right in the eye and tell me that she's alive.
She's alive.
Dude, if
All right.
nobody has seen her in like 2 years, they're saying, like, alive, like, I talked to your family. Nobody's even seen her. Family. I know they're all down in Florida. They're concerned too, man. Like, I talked to, like, your brother, talked to your uncle, talked to your grandma. We talked to a lot of people, man. I'm not just fucking around with this. Like,
All right.
so, like, you understand, like, people stopped you. Like, they had us come out from the office. Like,
All right.
like, I need to know that you saw your daughter alive recently.
I'm not under arrest, and I would like to go. That's it.
You're sad, man.
Okay.
Then the story shifted. Adam changed his account and said he had, in fact, handed Harmony back to her mother, Crystal Sorry, and that he simply assumed Harmony had been with Crystal this whole time.
So, just so I'm clear, so you're telling me that Crystal picked up Harmony 2 years ago on Thanksgiving time
Yeah.
with some other guy.
Yeah.
Guy or girl?
I assume it was a guy.
And that was the last of her.
Yeah.
Dude, if my kid was missing for fucking 2 years, like, I'd be the first one to start kicking doors down.
Up until right now, I had no idea she was missing.
At roughly the same time in late 2021, investigators also tracked down Kayla Montgomery, Adam's wife. Thought by that point that two had already separated. Kayla sat down with police and told them she had not seen Harmony since around Thanksgiving of 2019. She was specific about it. She said the last time she saw Harmony, Adam had been driving her to her shift at the Dunkin' Donuts. Harmony was in the car with them. Adam had told Kayla that after he dropped her off at work, he was going to drive down to Massachusetts to Haverhill and bring Harmony back to her mother so she could stay with Crystal. Kayla said that sounded fine to her. She got out of the car and went to work. And so when Crystal kept reaching out, kept messaging Kayla and asking where her daughter was, Kayla didn't find any of that unusual at all. As far as she was concerned, Harmony had gone back to live with her mom. That was the story she had been told, and apparently she never questioned it. By this point, Adam had moved on and was now in a relationship with a new woman named Kelsey Small. Investigators pressed him hard. Where was Harmony? Some of that gap could be partially explained by the pandemic and the lockdowns that followed in 2020, but only partially. There were too many blank stretches, too many people who should have had contact with Harmony and simply had not. The investigators were fatally certain, even without any physical evidence yet to confirm it, that Harmony was gone.
So that's paperwork that's saying you gotta give up custody of your kid? Harmony. No, just being served it. So you're gonna have to produce where all that, where your daughter's at. We're gonna be taking your phone.
It's not my phone.
Okay, but it's ours now. So
You know how to get a hold of me if you decide you want to come down and have a conversation with me. But I think you know you need to do the right thing and have more of a conversation with me. So we're going to figure this out one way or another. It's not going away. It's going to get really fucking big real quick. And it's not going to be good if we get on the wrong side of it. You know what I mean? So we've gone down this road before.
Yep.
You know how to get a hold of me, all right? You're free to go. I'll take that. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah. With Kayla twice.
Yeah. It's no surprise.
Yeah, so she definitely met when we saw that with another girl.
Hey, what's he saying?
He said he dropped her off. Mom came up from Mass around Thanksgiving of 2019. Mom saying, I haven't seen her since Easter of 2019. Girlfriend who lives here saying he brought her down there in fucking Christmas of 2019.
His kid's dead.
Probably
Jesus Christ.
that, or they ditched him with a relative somewhere. They just don't want to give her up, so the mom doesn't get custody. But like, nobody's been concerned enough for this long, besides mom, who's
Been like,
kind of
what, 2 fucking years?
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I think the fall of 2019 was the last time anybody had like eyes on this kid.
Okay.
But the kid was 5,
Right.
so barely old enough to be in school. So I
Yeah.
mean, if you think about it, if a kid doesn't go into school, there's like no way of really tracking.
Right,
kids.
That's
They
what I
just
was
kinda
asking.
fall
Like,
through
how
the
come there's
cracks.
nothing? There's no record for
So-
school for this.
Yeah,
The kid was probably right at that age where
this is his phone. It's a Wi-Fi only phone, so
that's his phone.
probably his or the new girlfriend. So
Well, that's good.
she wanted a lawyer.
She did,
Yeah,
but everything's okay.
right. She'll, the thing is, you hope she comes in for like a proffer or something like that, if that's what she decides to do. So
He's such a fucking scumbag, man.
I dealt with him earlier this year at the hospital.
Adam was now being ordered directly by the court to tell them where Harmony was. Show us, take us to her. You have been legally compelled to cooperate. And his response essentially was no. The case quickly became a major public story.
Effort to find a 7-year-old New Hampshire girl missing since October of 2019. But it wasn't until last week that Manchester police learned about the case of Harmony Montgomery. Her father and stepmother are both facing charges in the case, although not directly related to the little girl's disappearance.
It breaks my heart to see that.
Manchester, New Hampshire residents are troubled and saddened over the disappearance of 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery. On Saturday, Manchester police and other law enforcement returned to 77 Guilford Street to look for clues of her whereabouts. This is the last place where Harmony was known to live.
The part that gets me is 2 years. I mean, what happened to DCYF and all this? They were supposed to be taken care of,
Harmony's father and his wife, who is not her biological mother, were both arrested this week. Neither person has been charged directly with Harmony's disappearance.
The urgent search to find a missing 7-year-old, last seen in New Hampshire 2 years ago.
Quite frankly, enough is enough. This is a 7-year-old girl. Let's find her. All right? Let's come together as a community and do the right thing.
For us to have a 2-year delay, all right, that is extremely concerning. The moment the Manchester Police Department became aware of this, right, the moment we became aware of this, this became a priority one for the juvenile division.
Blonde-haired, blue-eyed Harmony is 7 years old now. She's expected to be about 4 feet tall, and she wears glasses. She was last seen when Manchester police responded to a house call back in October of 2019. As far as they know, the last place she was in school was in Massachusetts.
So what's happened in the last 2 years? Fair question, right? That's why I'm here today, because we need assistance, we need help.
A reward of $40,000 was put forward for any information that could lead to Harmony's safe return. Then, on January 4th, 2022, Adam Montgomery was arrested. And to be clear, it was not for anything connected to Harmony's disappearance, not yet. He was arrested for things that should have landed him behind bars much earlier. He was charged in connection with what he had done to his child, stemming from the earlier incident when Kevin had called child services after noticing that something was clearly wrong with Harmony's appearance. He was also charged with interference with custody for his continued refusal to cooperate, and with endangering the welfare of a child. He was interviewed the day of his arrest, and much like every other time the investigators had tried to get answers out of him, Adam Montgomery was almost entirely uncooperative.
It's January 4th, 2022. It's 8:55 p.m. Let's talk about why we're here to talk.
Tell me what you want to say.
Tell me what you know.
I don't know nothing.
Well, what was our conversation about the other day?
You said you had a couple questions you wanted to ask me. Yeah, ask me the questions.
Well, what was our conversation about the other day? Remember we met? I mean, you remember that was only, what, a few days ago, right? We got a lot of worried people and scared people right now in the community. I know you're worried about the well-being of your daughter, and I kind of want to get ahead of this because I don't want you to be painted as a monster.
Well, that's what you guys are already doing.
I am?
No, we're not. Oh, yeah.
Can you explain that?
That's what you guys are already trying to do, man. So, second-degree assault charge, what is this referring to?
Well, that's what we want to talk to you about.
Well, explain to me what I'm being charged with it. What the hell am I being charged with it for?
Well, your daughter had some injuries that you know about when you lived on Guilford Street.
No, I do not. What are you referring to?
Well, you were there, I wasn't, right?
What are you referring to?
I'm referring to her having some good marks.
What are you referring to?
Marks that were left on her by you.
Absolutely not. I have nothing else to say.
Do you know that the reward is about $40,000 to find where your daughter is right now?
Okay.
When you start throwing money around like that, people come out of the woodwork that you would never expect to do.
Okay.
So, like I said, when I talked to you a few days ago...
Can I have another cigarette?
Sure. I kind of told you this thing was going to get a lot bigger.
That's not right.
And we wanted to get ahead of it.
But you're sitting there telling me that right off the rip that there was something wrong with my daughter because of me. No, that's bullshit.
Okay. So if your daughter had marks on her at some point when you lived over there, how would you explain those?
How would she get those marks?
Well, I would love to know when the marks were there because DCYF came to my house multiple times.
Okay. And we know that they came there.
Right. And closed the case.
Okay.
I've already explained this to you.
Okay. Well, there's some discrepancies between what you're telling us and what other people are telling us. You're saying you brought her down to Mass, that somebody said she came up from Mass.
I never once said I brought her down to Mass.
What did you say? She came up here to get her?
I never once said. I was audio and video recorded the other day. I never once said I went down to Mass.
So you're saying that she came up from Mass?
I'm not saying anything else.
Why is it that you refuse to talk about her every time we bring her up?
Because you guys are just sitting here beating a bush. It's over and over. You guys asked me what happened the other day. I told you what happened.
You wouldn't tell us the other day.
You guys talked to me the other day. I explained to him what happened the other day. And now...
Can you look at me? Help me. Please. That's all I'm asking for. I can't sleep until I know that she's okay. And I know that you know where she is or what happened to her, but I can't do it without your help. And if you don't want to look like this fucking animal, because I don't think you are. Not that I don't think you are, I know you aren't. But I can only do so much for you, man.
I know.
I'm begging you to help me. Can you make me a promise? Like, man to man? Can you tell me that she's alive?
I want a lawyer with me.
So, where was Harmony? Why would he not just tell him? At this point, it was becoming nearly impossible to hold on to any other conclusion. She had to be gone.
With no luck and no solid leads, the reward in the search for a little girl in New Hampshire is now $100,000. Manchester police and the FBI have been searching for Harmony Montgomery, the 7-year-old last seen 2 years ago, but only reported missing 2 weeks ago. Police were at the home where Harmony last lived over the past couple of days, searching in the backyard. Her father, who was legally in charge of caring for her, has been arrested and was charged with endangering the welfare of a child and assault, but he has not explained where she might be. Police say donations from people and businesses across the country have helped them increase that reward.
Kayla Montgomery was arrested not long after. Her charge was a specific one. Remember where she had told police that the last time she saw Harmony was around Thanksgiving of 2019, when Adam had dropped her off at the Dunkin' Donuts and then driving away with Harmony. Well, alrighty, investigators discovered that Kayla had continued collecting food stamps for Harmony the whole time. Benefits designated for a child who, by Kayla's own account, was no longer living in their home. That amounted to welfare fraud. And that is what she was arrested for. But the police were not buying Kayla's broader story for a second. The entire account of that last car ride of being dropped off at work while Harmony disappeared from the backseat, officers felt it was fabricated. Something about the details just didn't hold together. In the meantime, police returned to the old house on Guilford Street and searched it thoroughly. They dug up the garden, they found nothing. Shortly after, Adam's girlfriend Kelsey Small, who had been present at the time of his arrest, was found deceased in a hotel room in Manchester. The circumstances were not deemed suspicious and appeared to be accidental in nature. Importantly, Kelsey had no direct connection to the Harmony case at all. Adam had only begun his relationship with her after Harmony was last seen alive. In April of 2022, Adam was hit with yet another charge, the theft of restricted items from another couple in Manchester. Kayla was charged in that case as well. Neither of them was going anywhere anytime soon. But the question of what had actually happened to Harmony remained completely unanswered until June of 2022. That was when investigators finally found a crack in Kayla's stories. She had testified under oath that the last time she saw Harmony Montgomery was November 30th, 2019, 2 days after Thanksgiving. She had described being in the car with Adam and Harmony, being dropped off at the Dunkin' Donuts for her work shift, and watching Adam drive off with the little girl, telling Kayla he was talking Harmony down to Haverhill in Massachusetts so she could go and live with her mother. Police found evidence when they pulled Kayla's employment records. What those records showed was simply and completely damning. By November 30th, 2019, Kayla had already been fired from the Dunkin' Donuts. She had been let go a full week earlier. She had not worked a shift that day. She could not have been dropped off there. The entire story was a lie.
Kayla Montgomery was arrested Friday and charged with perjury. New court documents just released state that Montgomery lied under oath about the time and location of a prior work shift. Montgomery was set to face a judge today, but waived her arraignment. She's already accused of accepting benefits for Harmony Montgomery, even though the child was no longer in her care. Harmony has not been seen in over 2 years, although she was just reported missing in November. We mentioned this case isn't over tonight.
With that, Kayla was arrested for perjury and, this time facing serious consequences, she agreed to sit down with investigators and tell them what had actually happened to Harmony Montgomery. After the Montgomery family was evicted from the house on Guilford Street, they didn't move into another apartment or find a new place to stay. They began living out of their car. That was where they slept. That was where they spent their days. No one in the household was working. They had found a friend's parking lot they could use, a lot outside an apartment building belonging to a man they bought drugs from. That became their base of operations. Adam, Harmony, and Kayla slept together in the front seat on the car, night after night, in the parking lot with nowhere else to go. It was December 7th, 2019. That morning, the family was in the car heading out for breakfast. I'm not going to describe what happened next. The information is available in public records if you choose to research this case further. What I can tell you is that a situation arose and what Adam did in response to it crossed every conceivable boundary. What happened to Harmony in that car is something I am not in a position to detail here. What is clear is that the outcome of those moments was irreversible. After what happened in that car, Adam told Kayla that this time he believed he had truly gone too far with Harmony. The little girl became unresponsive. She lost consciousness there in the car. What happened next is almost impossible to process. Rather than stopping, rather than seeking help, they just kept driving. They used drugs in the car with all the children present, and they drove on. They wandered aimlessly through Manchester for hours. Eventually, they stalled at a traffic light around midday. That was the moment they realized the truth. Harmony was not breathing. Adam's actions toward his own 5-year-old daughter had led to the worst possible outcome. She had not survived, and then got out of the car and opened the trunk. He pulled out a red and black duffel bag, he emptied its contents, and then he simply placed what remained of his daughter inside the bag. Not once, Kayla would later say, did either of them suggest taking Harmony to a hospital. Not once. They walked to a friend's house, carrying the duffel bag with them. Their car was later towed away. Neither Adam or Kayla ever went to retrieve it. They then began living out of a friend's car, the same friend whose parking lot they had already been using as shelter. And the duffel bag came with them. They lived that way for about 3 days. The bag was kept in the trunk of the car, or sometimes it was simply left outside in the cold. What remained of Harmony was inside it. Adam left it outside deliberately. It was the depths of winter in New Hampshire, and the freezing temperatures were a factor in how he chose to manage the situation over the weeks that followed. He held onto that bag, kept it close for about 3 months. The thought of it's almost beyond words. Eventually, the family went to stay with Kayla's mother. Her name was Christina, and she lived in an apartment with her boyfriend. When they moved in, Adam transferred what was inside the duffel bag into a red Kool-Aid cooler with a white top. That cooler was placed in the hallway of the apartment building, completely out in the open. The hallway had no heating, so the cold air kept the cooler at a low temperature. Every single neighbor who passed through that hallway walked right by it. None of them knew what was inside. Then, at the end of December 2019, the family moved into a family's in transition shelter. Adam moved what was inside the bag up into the ceiling of their unit, hidden away in the ventilation system. But the unit was warm, unlike the hallway or the outdoor cold they had relied on before. I am not going to describe what that meant for the situation inside that bag. Neighbors throughout the building began complaining about an odor coming from that unit. When a maintenance worker was finally sent to investigate, Adam quickly moved the bag from the ceiling vent and hid it in a closet. The worker came in, searched around, found nothing visible, and concluded that a small animal, maybe a rat, had probably passed away somewhere inside the walls. He left without going any further. What they found there became part of the evidentiary record in the case. They also found Adam's fingerprints all around the ceiling vents. The family then moved to another apartment. What remained of Harmony was placed inside 2 trash bags, then into a plastic container, and relocated into a closet in the new unit. After that, what remained of Harmony was placed into a smaller bag and kept in a freezer. They would sometimes transport the container on a stroller when moving it around. Adam was working at a pizza restaurant in Manchester at the time, washing dishes in the bag. At some point, he actually brought the bag into the walk-in freezer at the pizzeria and kept it there for a couple of days. Finally, on March 3rd, 2020, Adam rented a U-Haul truck. He left around 1 in the morning. He returned around 5 in the morning. He said nothing to Kayla about where he had been or what he had done. The only thing he told her were 2 words: "It's done." He would later claim that he kept the details from her to shield her from further incrimination, which is a remarkable thing for a man in his position to say. Kayla would say she simply didn't know where he went, and after that night, Harmony was gone. What makes this even more devastating is that the search for Harmony didn't begin in any meaningful way until nearly a year and 9 months later. A year and 9 months. The U-Haul was spotted on toll cameras in and around Boston. A significant stretch of mileage remained unaccounted for. Based on what is known, it's believed that Adam likely disposed of Harmony's remains somewhere in that region. Boston Harbor, the Westland, and the marshes near Revere, Charles River, the Mystic River. Adam himself had originally grown up in Revere, which may explain why he chose that direction. When police later examined that U-Haul, they found evidence inside that connected it directly to Harmony. After what happened and after disposing of her remains, Adam became increasingly paranoid and erratic. He directed that instability toward Kayla to the point where she eventually fled, fearing for her own safety. She described him as completely spiraling out of control. Adam later traveled to Maine, where he met a woman named Kelsey Small. The two of them lived out of her car, and life continued in its broken, destructive way, right up until the moment police caught up with him in a Manchester parking lot. With no remains ever recovered, Adam faced the most serious criminal charges in connection with what happened to his daughter.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. I'm Mount Aldenburg, the Chief of Police for the Manchester Police Department. This morning, at approximately 10:30 a.m., Adam Montgomery was transported to the Manchester Police Department, and he was booked in on the charges of second-degree murder, falsifying physical evidence, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with a witness. Although we are all pleased that we were able to bring forth these charges, they are of no solace to myself, the detectives behind me, who have worked tirelessly on this investigation, and more importantly, they bring no solace to the loved ones of Harmony Montgomery and her family and friends. Every single one of you has been the voice of Harmony in seeking justice for her. Said I wasn't going to do it. Has been your single motivation and number one priority for the past 10 months. I also want to thank your families, who've also had to endure the long hours, missed family events, and all the sadness that this investigation has brought.
Adam went on a trial in June 2023. The charges at that particular trial stemmed from illegal possession of stolen items in Manchester. The trial lasted 1 week and he was found guilty. At his sentencing for that conviction, Adam felt the need to speak up and make one thing perfectly clear to the court. He wanted everyone to understand that just because they had found him guilty on those charges, that verdict should not in any way be connected to the separate matter of his missing daughter. Those were the actual words of a man already convicted of one crime and awaiting trial for another.
Believe me when I tell you that I didn't wake up one morning and choose to become an addict. I don't want to be an addict. And I'll spend my time in prison utilizing it to the best of my ability to change things about myself. I could have had a meaningful life, and I blew that opportunity through drugs. But I loved my daughter unconditionally, and I did not kill her. So please don't consider anything that relates to those charges. Only consider the facts to this case.
He was sentenced to 30 to 60 years in prison on those charges.
Where is Harmony Montgomery? Where is Harmony? When people across this nation, from Florida all the way up to Alaska, and everywhere in between, were looking for Harmony, there's one person who is not. One person. The one person who should have been looking for Harmony was not. Her biological father, that defendant that you saw 2 days ago, he wasn't looking for her, and in fact, he was hoping that she wouldn't be found. His concern was not with finding this innocent 5-year-old girl. His concern was that she would be found, and that his heinous and depraved actions would be brought to light. That's because he was the only person in this world who knows where Harmony is, who knows where her body is, and he was hoping that she would never be found. The one person, the one and only person who murdered Harmony, who butchered her body, and who disposed of her like yesterday's trash. This case is about Harmony Montgomery. I don't want that to get lost as we progress throughout this lengthy trial. This case is about Harmony Montgomery, but it's also about the defendant, his actions, his rage, his brutality, and his escalation in violence. The murder of Harmony Montgomery, that was just the beginning of the depraved actions of this defendant and what this case is all about. It's about a man who, for 2 years, evaded apprehension, didn't have to answer for his crimes, had no appreciation or concern about Harmony being missing because he already knew she was dead.
In early 2024, Adam went on a trial for what he had done to his daughter. He chose not to attend the proceedings. Kayla appeared as a witness for the prosecution and testified about everything she had witnessed throughout those deeply troubling months. But in the middle of this already deeply unsettling story, something unusual happened. A letter was read aloud in a courtroom. It was a letter written by Kayla herself, addressed to the prosecution. And it was read out not by the prosecution, but by Adam's own defense attorney. Kayla had written a letter to the prosecution making an offer. She would testify against Adam. She would become a state's witness, but she came with conditions. She wanted immunity, she wanted her children returned to her, and she wanted to see Adam one last time, to be close to him, perhaps even intimate one final time.
One of the things that you wanted was one last time with Adam, right?
Right.
You wanted one last time to maybe kiss him or make love.
Yep.
And what you didn't write was that you wanted protection from Adam, right?
Right.
What you didn't write was that you were afraid of Adam, right?
Right.
Because you didn't want protection from Adam, right?
I wasn't thinking about that.
Okay. You just wanted to be with him one last time before you, as you put it, betrayed him, right?
Yes.
The defense want no time pointing the finger straight at Kayla. They tried to place the blame for what happened to Harmony squarely on her shoulders. Their strategy was an admission, but a carefully limited one. They acknowledged that Adam had concealed Harmony's remains. They acknowledged that he had tried to hide what happened. Adam did in fact plead guilty to those charges. But the defense drew a firm line. They argued that Adam hadn't been responsible for Harmony's passing. The jury didn't buy it. Adam Montgomery was found guilty of what he did to his daughter. In May of 2024, he was sentenced to a minimum of 56 years in prison for what happened to Harmony. That sentence was added on top of an existing conviction on a separate criminal charge. He will never walk free, and that most people would agree is exactly what he deserves. Kayla, for her cooperation with the state, reached a plea agreement with authorities. She was sentenced to 3.5 to 7 years in prison. She was released on parole in May of 2024. The contrast between those two outcomes is hard to ignore. If you want to keep following cases where institutions fail the people they were built to protect, subscribe. That's exactly what this channel is here for. Next time, we are looking at another case where the danger was hiding in plain sight, and the people closest to it kept calling it something else.